Today on the workbench I have a new project here. This is an Athearn Genesis MP15AC. We're going to be putting in, and it is DCC already, but this gentleman wants to take this board and speaker out. We're going to put a scale sound system speaker in it, upgrade the lighting. We're going to put a decoder buddy in it, and let's see, an ESU V5 decoder with the appropriate sound file, and we'll use an ESU Power Pack for this. So let's jump right into it here, and we'll start taking this thing apart once I find the appropriate screwdriver. This does have a lot of detail on it, and if I remember right, we'll pull the couplers out. We'll try to pull the couplers out. For some reason it looks like there's some metal shavings right there. Not sure what that's from. So there's the one coupler. Come up here on the long hood. That one out. And that will just slip right out. And boy, they've got them wires tucked in there tight. Of course, there's not a lot of room in these. So what's hanging us up is the wires for the lighting. There we go. Them unplugged. Just checking things out there. There's 5 sets of lights in that up front, and probably 5 sets in the rear. So now can go ahead and, like I say, we're not going to save any of this. Pull that speaker off. Leave them screws in there for now. That way, when I put the other speaker in, I'll know what they go to. Of course, these black wires are pickups. I'm not worried about them. Go ahead and we can cut those off. So this red, well, here, let's get this. So we've got these other 2 black wires. For track pickups. This red wire right here motor wire. And then it has another red wire here for this same, well, it's on the board, I don't need to disconnect it. And the black wire, there is another black wire here, right there. That's the other motor wire. And it was just barely on there. Alright, well, that's the unwiring process. Pull this old board off. And I'll save those. So there we are. There's our old board. And this one is one that came with, this is one of the original runs, I think, because it came with a small remote. You can see that there's our other motor wire. I'm going to cut this resistor off, or, well, it's not a resistor. Forget what that is, but I'm going to cut it off. We don't need that. They're for motor noise. So we'll take that out. So now, basically, we are ready to start our installation. I do need to get out my pieces that I'm going to use. I didn't lay them out, I just started working here. But yeah. And when I did turn this on, I did try it out. I only had one set of lights that worked. So anyway, let's go ahead and I'll shut this off for right now, and we'll get all of our bits and pieces, and then we'll come back and we'll start installing some things. Okay, I've got our decoder buddy here, and I'm gonna mount this. So this is our long hood out here. So I'm gonna mount this in this orientation. I'll be able to use some double-sided tape and stick it right to the motor. But I want to do that because our decoder will plug in right here. And if you compare that to the body, we've got this high point right here. And there is that's the highest part of the shell, right there on that long hood. And actually that is removable, but I want to put that there. That'll give us more room for our decoder when we go ahead and put that in. But before we do anything here, I'm going to go ahead and we'll run our wiring up through. That way I'll be able to solder that from the bottom, or solder it up here on the top, but run those through, and then I'll be able to mount that the way that I want it to go. So let's get some flux here. And so a big question I get, what type of flux do I use? That is Kester's 186. Kester's 186. The other thing I get is what kind of solder do I use, and it is a Kester's brand solder. Let's see for what number is that. It's a 6644 rosin core SN63PB37, and it is 15 thousandths thick. I'm sure that cleared all those questions up. If you had any on that. And I'm not going to start off by fighting that. We'll hold that down with that. There's our motor wires hooked up. Now, go back. Trim those off. Now I'll get out the double-sided tape and some alcohol and a cotton swab. Clean that and that. And I do need to cut a stray wire off of the back. Yep. As usual. Okay, so we have our decoder buddy mounted. Everything is good there. Now we'll start with some track pickups. We can cut quite a bit of that off. There's one. Two. Let's go ahead and get these hooked up. Those already have solder on them, those pads, so I can just take and lay my wire down. Okay, there's our front pickup. And on the short hood, I won't have to cut them any smaller. That wire is okay. Go ahead and turn this around. So there is our short hood pickups. So what I'm going to do, I've got a decoder here. This is not the one that I'm going to use in it, but I've got this decoder. We'll try it out, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I've got our scale sound system speaker here, and I kind of put the leads on it already. Almost forgot to start videoing again. But anyway, that'll sit right down on that. And I can cut those wires off just a touch more. Let me get a good accurate try and keep everything as short as I can here. These things are really, really tight on space. And this will just have a single speaker in it. Trying to keep my pickup wires up and out of the way there. So I think before let's go ahead get some flux on those before I mount this permanently. There's our speaker. Now I get those wires tucked in. And I've already pulled the screws out of the old speaker. To use to mount that. So there's our scale sound system speaker. Got our decoder buddy in. So far, so good. All right, now what we need to do is we need to get out our power pack, and we need to stuff that thing in here somewhere. So I can probably, well, I don't think I can put it up front there. Would be nice. Well, let me get the power pack and then we'll be back. Okay, we're back here and I've got the ESU Power Pack. There's the number 54671. Lay that off to the side there. So there's our power pack. Now, before, when I've done these, I've taken the cab off, and in the control stand there's a void on the front side of them. I don't know, see if you can see that right in there. There you go. That is the perfect place for a capacitor if you're not using a ESU Power Pack, because they want to make theirs to where you can turn them on and off to program. So now I have to figure out a way to mount this. I'll probably end up taking this heat shrink off of this and mounting it. Well, I'm not sure how I'm going to mount it yet. I may have to take the capacitor off of the board, put the board in one place and the capacitor in another. That might be one way to go. I'm going to have to pull this cab off of this anyway. So I can get the new lights in it. So, for the meantime, in the meantime here, we're kind of at a standstill. So, I think what that means is I'll take a break. Okay, so I've decided to pull the cab off here, and I've kind of got it started. But first we want to take, our handrails loose, and then there are some clips inside that you just release. Then you wrestle your wires through. But right here you can see this is an excellent place to put a capacitor, especially if you're using a TCS KA4, I believe, one of their small ones, maybe a 3. But anyway, what I think I'll try to do, I know I'm going to end up pulling this heat shrink off. I can put the capacitor in here and have the board just kind of hang out in front of it. So let me pull the screws out. And of course I have to pull the cab off to do the lights. It's too tall to do that. Okay. I think what I can do is, so that sets that way, and I'll just go ahead and and do this. Got this heat shrink. As long as I don't cut my finger, it'll be fine. Now, I'm going to bend that out like that. May have to do a little bit of modification in here, but I think that'll slide. That'll go right in there. So hopefully this is sharp. Push that back. But if I can just kind of whittle away at some of that. Need a little more. That went in there kind of tight. It did go, but so it will go in there. I'm still not real happy with the fit because that pulled that out just a little bit. So I do need to do a little more work on that, and then I'll be back. Okay, I've got this kind of whittled down inside, and it does fit in there. I'll have to put a little glue back in that corner, but other than that, so it fits just like that. Now, when I go to put it back on the shell, you can see it'll slip right under and it'll bolt right back down, or screw right back down. And then there it is from the bottom. So the thing fits perfectly, which really surprises me. But I'm glad it does. I'm not going to complain about it, but that's a great place to put that. So, and then of course we'll have our shell will go right back on, or our cab will go right back on top of that. But yeah, I mean, that's going to work out good. So we'll pull that back off, and yeah, that will work out just lovely. That'll give me plenty of room to mount the cab. Now, of course, the bad thing with this is this will be attached permanently to the decoder buddy. Now, get on there. Well, I had it on there. Now I can't get it back. There's one side. Okay. What am I doing here? There. Okay. So the great thing about the decoder buddies, one of the great things, is the ability to add your light board, have all your lights in your shell, that way you can pull it off, and you can unplug it and move it. Get it out of your way. So, if I put since I'm going to put the Keep Alive up here in the cab, my wiring is connected right to the board. So that's the downfall of this. But it works out. So we'll keep that there, and actually I've got that turned around backward. I'll keep those wires just that long, and they'll lay right in there really nice. So we've got our Keep Alive figured out what we're going to do. We'll be able to put our cab back on. Yeah, that's going to work out all right. So now I just got to get the lights together, and yeah, get our lights together, and that'll be it. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But there's still a lot of work left to do. So, all right. Okay, we're back here, and we're getting ready to start on our lights. So now, you can see I've got this, pick this up, I've got this little board here. This little PCB came out of the cab of this locomotive. And you can see the screw there in the top of the cab. So what this was, or is, it had all of the lighting functions that are in the cab coming to this board. So this, let me get something to point with here. Maybe that'll make it a little easier. So this row right here of 8 soldering tabs, yeah, that was for the lights You know, both sets of lights, and then the center red light. So what I want to do is I want to reuse this board. It does have these two resistors in it. I'll need to bypass those resistors. I think this one 280 ohms, or 220 ohms, and this one's like 180 ohms. But these are for the factory lights. They must have been 12 volt bulbs. Well, they were 12 volt bulbs. But anyway, what this does, there's one common wire for all four of these for the positive, and then you can set up the other ones with the function. And so instead of me having 8 wires running through the cab and down and to the lighting board, I'll reuse this board, and it'll end up as, and I'm sure I'm telling you this wrong, but because I can't really read it right here, but one of them is a common, and the other 3 are functions, so they're negative. So we're going to go ahead and wire this up, and then we'll bypass these resistors. We don't need those because we've already got resistors on the Decoder Buddy that'll make up for that. So there's this board that goes in the cab, and then there's this board that came out of the long hood of the locomotive, and it's the same thing. You've got your 8 soldering pads there, and it reduces it down to 4 wires with a couple of resistors there. So we'll reuse that one also. But what I want to do first is go through and clean this board up. I'm going to pull all that solder off, and we'll make that nice and neat. So let's see. Kind of zoom in on there. Yeah, that's not too awful bad. I mean, this really isn't anything special. I am going to put some flux down through there. And I've got my soldering braid, desoldering braid, whatever you want to say. We'll just heat that up. Get that solder flowing right up into that braid. And I'll end up cleaning that off here in a minute with some alcohol. That it's hot. So I've got the biggest part of it off, but I've got to hold that. There we go. Let me clean that up a little bit. Cut that part of that soldering braid off. Okay. I'm going to hit that one more time. Okay. Well, I've almost gotten all the flux off of it. And all that was from the factory. Okay. So there, I've got that board cleaned up better. And now what I'm going to do is take and get out my warm white 402 LEDs. And I'm going to zoom out there. And I'm going to straighten these out. And I'll test each one of them before I hook them up. To the board. So that one's working. Now these need to be cut off about 3/8 of an inch long. And I'll probably cut this a little long. Now I'll just take it. Strip these after I find my Alright, so I went ahead and I soldered everything up to this board. Now, it doesn't look real good from your angle there. Oop. Really doesn't look good when I pull it over like that. But I've got some glare on that. Now I need to get it back into focus. I think that's focused up. So what I've got here, we've got one positive, and then I've got 3 function wires across that. I don't know if you can see all those. There's one, there's another, and then there's one. But the one positive will run all of the lights. So this light right here, that is my red light for the center, and it's run off of both ends. And then I've got 4 402 bulbs right here in the middle, and I can run them off of one function wire back here. So instead of having all these running through the cab, now they'll all just run back into these 4 wires like it was originally set up and down. So I just got to mount this into the cab and get the lights all fixed up, and the cab will be done, and then we can move on to the long hood. So alright, and that took me probably a half an hour to do, and I didn't want to show all that on camera. Now the other thing I did too, and I don't know if you can see it, this board had resistors on it here, here, and here, and I've taken all the resistors out, and now they're just straight across because the resistors I have are on the Decoder Buddy. And like I say, I mean, it doesn't look real pretty, but I've got a glare going there, and there might be a little residual flux there, but it does all work, and it works nice, so it'll look really good in the cab. Alright, we'll be back. Okay, so let's see. I have all of the lights in the cab. Now I don't have the lenses in yet, but I reused that factory board that was in there. Got everything tucked up in nice and neat, and this will run down to the Decoder Buddy. So we're going to set that off to the side. Now we'll get our long hood, and it has basically the same board, which I've already taken that board out. It just goes right in there just like that. And so I've got that pulled out. I've got it cleaned up, and we'll end up using this. This goes to our lights. These are our outputs to our lights, and then this side up here is our input. Now, I've still got some flux on there that needs to come off, and then we'll have 4 wires running back to the Decoder Buddy, just like we do in the cab. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put our lights on this, and then I'll be back. I just wanted to show you what I've got done there. Get that out of the way. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, so I've got all the wiring on the board. Here's the inputs to this board, and then here's we got our red light for the center, and then we've got all of our headlights and our gyro light. So not too complicated. You can follow the traces on the board and work it all out. It's not hard. So now I just got to put it in the long hood there, and I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll bring you back and we'll show you what it looks like in the long hood. So really all I've got left to do is just put these, put this back up in and wire everything up to the Decoder Buddy, and then we'll be good to go. Alright, I'll be back here in a little bit. Okay, so I've got the lights in the long hood. They're all wired up to our factory board there. Of course, we've got the lights in the cab. So basically, I've got this thing ready to start assembly on it and get it all wired up. But what I want to do now is, let's see, let's kind of do this. We'll have to get these wires together. To where they can't be seen. So what I should have done while I was working on other stuff was glued those in just like that right there, to where they can't be seen. So that'll be easy enough. Yeah, I want to do that before I put the cab back together. So what am I going to use there? I'm going to use a little bit of the E6000, and don't need a lot. Do need a little more than that though. Okay, let's try that amount. Put my lid back on my glue. Okay. We'll let that dry. And then we can start working on our final assembly. Okay, we're back here. Let's see. We've got our lights and everything mounted in the cab. So we're ready for final assembly here. Let's see, how do we want to do this? One of the first things we got to do is I want to make sure that this the control stand and the keep alive and everything will snap up in here. So let's run that wiring up through. And dummy. Was trying to put that in from the bottom. When it goes in from the top. We'll get in there. There we go. So that snaps in there. And then we've got our two screws that I can't get started. Okay, so there's our stand. Now I've got to thread this wiring down through. And it'll go down between the stand and the ESU board there. Well, that's what it's supposed to do. Let's say that. There's one. There's 3 of them. And there's the last one. When that rolled over, we're getting closer. Make sure my railing's out of the way. I may have to do this off camera, just so. So let's see. Get that to snap in. Get those to snap in. There we go. All the wiring looks good. You'll notice I've got that rail off. The wiring is, you can't see the wiring in the cab. So far, so good. But now what I want to do is, before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to check to make sure that my lights still work. Okay, there's that one. There's that one. And there's that one. So all of the cab lights are working. So now, with that completed, I'll be able to start wiring this up to the decoder buddy. I'm going to be able to cut these off. I'll probably be able to cut about 2 inches of that off. That's what it looks like. And then these front lights, I'll be able to cut probably about 3 inches, 4 inches off of it. So let's get that kind of temporarily rigged up. I'll leave myself a little extra. There's the point of no return. So now, before I do anything else, I'm going to put a couple of pieces of heat shrink on that, just to be able to kind of pull those all together. Turn my soldering iron on. Should have had it on. So there's one piece. I think I'm going to get a different size. That's just a little big. Okay. And I think one more. Just for good measure. Okay, there's that. Now, let me get that out of the way. We'll get these wires together. So I'm pulling this over here to where I can put my pliers on those. Or not pliers, but tweezers. And now I'll get a couple of little pieces of heat shrink for that. Go back to the red there. Down to the way. And I know you can't see what I'm doing right there, but I've just got that piece of heat shrink in there. Getting those wires together. So there's one piece. The second piece. I think that'll be good for that one. Now I'll get some more of my black out. Put on those front ones. Shouldn't need much there. They're not going to be very long. I know this is not exciting TV, or whatever you want to call this, but I'll cut them off even. There's that one. Okay. Now we are ready to wire. So I've got to strip these wires off. This one I've got to cut off a little bit. We'll wire them all up to our light board here for our decoder buddy. So what I do to help me with that, I've got this 1, 2, 3 block. An old one with an old decoder buddy sitting on it. And I put that down on there. Just so. Alright, here we are up on the turntable. We've got this project completed. So let's go ahead and we'll go get this through its startup sequence. Okay, so we've started it up. Now we'll turn our headlight on, and then we'll turn our gyro light on, and then in the center we have an emergency light, and that light is bright red, but you really can't tell it in this video. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to rotate this around, and as I rotate it, I'm going to increase the throttle so it'll notch its way up through. And turn that off. We'll start notching it up. I've got the drive hold on there. So we are at full throttle. And we're almost around there to where you can see the end of it. So I'm going to start ramping that down. So we've got it there, turned around, kick it down another notch or two. There, we're back all the way to idle. So now, we'll go ahead and turn our rear headlight on, turn our gyro light on there, and then of course, we've got our rear emergency light. And like I say, we turn those off. You can see kind of a red reflection there, and it is a really bright red light. You just can't tell it on the video real well. So yeah, I think this project came out really well. Runs really good, nice and smooth. So, oh, I need to go through hit the horn there. We'll hear a bell. So yeah, we're done with this one, and thanks for watching.